For those undecided, remember the opinion polls have put the percentage of undecided voters at 5% for Ipsos Kenya and 6% from Infotruck. So perhaps this was one of the group of people that this particular debate was expected to target. But for you, whether you had made your decision and after this debate it changed your mind, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet us at KTN News. You can tweet me at Akisa Wandera. The hashtag is Worldview for easier tracking of your responses online, and I'll definitely be sampling a number of them. Remember, presidential debate Kenya is still trending on Twitter, so it will be very nice to hear from you. But let me introduce to you the panel. With me to dissect the issues that came out of that debate are analyst Brian Mutie on my extreme left. He is a governance expert as well as a political analyst joining us to just tell us some of the things he picked out from that particular debate. We also have Moses Odhiambo, who is a political analyst. It would also be interesting to pick his mind on that particular debate, on how he thinks things went down. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming out. A lot has been said about this debate, about Raila Odinga's performance and consequently President Uhuru Kenyatta's absence. I'll start with you, Brian. How do you analyze the whole thing from the 8 p.m. one and the 5:30 one for the three others?
Oh, I'll start with the 8 one. Of course, the three fellows who turned up for the debate, of course, they put a spirited fight in terms of trying to convince Kenyans why they are the best alternatives from the existing ones. And I must say that I can pinpoint one Dr. Ekuro, who actually outshone the others because he was actually very much in touch with the reality. He could say something that was perhaps, in sync with what we anticipated as Kenyans. And the others, just going to the one called Japheth, I think coming from America and also Wainaina coming from the diaspora, they somehow, were overconfident and perhaps they feel that they have the best alternatives for this country. I don't know what happens when people go to abroad, especially America. They come with this perception that they have the best solutions and instant coffee. So what
you feel like they were not in touch with the problems and the issues that affect the common mwananchi?
Okay, they were somehow blurred in terms of their, vision for this country, and they were not coming out clearly on realistic issues or realistic solutions to the problems that we have as a country. And somehow some of the problems were of an imagination. And I also want to tie them to the Kamenchus of this country, who came also with the same kind of pomp, a lot of confidence that she has, handed out to the problems facing this country, only to fall or to falter at the last hurdle. So this notion of people coming thinking that Kenyans do not have, understanding of their real problems, is only them who have that solution. I think it's far-fetched. So Ekuro to me stood out, and kudos to him. He's a politician in the making, and I think just like wine is going to mature with time, so is politics. But I also come into the issue of the big debate, of course. The other time when we were here, we said that it was a debate that never was. But yesterday we can say now today that it was a debate that was, because at least Baba appeared and they took all the 90 minutes to himself and to try to convince people why he offers the best solution for this country. I must say that his performance was fairly good, save for the questions, the way they were coined by the presenters or the moderators. To me, I expected some bit of punch. I expected some questions that would elicit the real Raila that we would have seen. But the questions looked very ordinary. These are the questions that have been floated to him before. And to me, they did not bring out the real issues that perhaps we wanted to hear. They were too basic for me because I did not see the punch. I didn't see the spark. I expected something which would excite me as a person.
All right. For you, Moses?
I think for me, the first debate with the three gentlemen, I mean, it's good that they were given the opportunity to express, their desire to lead this country and also expound on, how they would manage the country given the mantle to lead the country. I was a bit disappointed in the sense that they've had the opportunity to dig around some of the issues that affect Kenyans, but I was not able to clearly identify with either one of them to understand exactly how they would move the country from where we are right now to the next level. I would take Dr. Kuro, for example. He is the only one who said that he had a printed manifesto. But when you looked at the manifesto, he had some questionable, write-ups in that manifesto. For example, he was saying he would, introduce a lot of things, but at the same time cut tax. So my question was, does he have the understanding of how to run a country? You need the money, you need resources. So if you cut tax and you want to offer free medical or free schooling, where are you going to get the money? It's not going to work. So there was that understanding that they lacked the knowledge of being a chief, executive of a country, which demands that you need to know how to not only discharge the highest office of the land, the duties of the highest office of the land, but also to inspire, your voters to, see the sense that, oh, this guy is gonna, change things. I felt that was missing in that debate. As I want to agree with my colleague that there was some sort of superfluous, expression from the other candidates. They sounded too simple and less sophisticated for people who are running for the presidency. Coming to the evening debate, the last debate, which was supposed to be between Raila and His Excellency the President, I mean, it was a shame that Uhuru missed this debate. I think if I were him, I would fire all my advisors instantly because it was an opportunity for him to explain to Kenyans, first of all, to defend the last 4 years, and also to try and explain to Kenyans why he needs a second term.
Well, the argument has been that he has been defending the last 4 years in the rallies, and on, I think on Sunday we saw him interact with people on Facebook Live. Absolutely.
I mean, there's one thing, I mean, okay, debates are not, so to speak, as they say, the panacea, the solutions to all the issues he's been trying to solve. Debates are just one of the platforms he could use to talk to Kenyans. Now, yes, he's been going around the country trying to explain to Kenyans what he has done in the last 4 years, but also what he wants to do. But this was the opportunity now to get the two of them on the same platform and be gauged by Kenyans on what they stand. I liked the way they have these very well-written manifestos, but in the substance, as Kenyans, we don't get to understand what they intend to do. You remember when Raila was asked about corruption, he said he would Magufuli somebody. I mean, of course, nobody knows what that means, but that's the opportunity we Kenyans have to pose those kinds of questions.
What do you mean by that?
Exactly.
All right, there's something else I would want you to comment on, but let's take a look at something else. The Tanzanian government has denied claims that the country is hosting a parallel tallying center for the National Super Alliance. Speaking during a press conference in Dar es Salaam, Minister of Foreign Affairs Augustine Mahiga said Tanzania is impartial in the Kenyan political contest and will not meddle in the country's electoral process.
Ya Tanzania kuwa na marafiki wote, sio tu marafiki wa kiserikali, lakini pia marafiki na kutambua vyama mbalimbali vya siasa. Na sisi Tanzania hatujawahi, hatuthubutu na hatutathubutu kuingilia siasa za nchi nyingine, na hasa nchi jirani na rafiki kama Kenya. Na kama kuna utundu huo unafanyika, labda na watu tu wenye kucheza na mitandao na nini na hivi, watu hao wakidhibitiwa na kukamatwa watachukuliwa hatua kali sana.
Parallel tallying center for NASA definitely came up yesterday, and we had what the presidential candidate Raila Odinga had to say. We've had what the Foreign Affairs Minister in Tanzania had to say. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think if he had considered that there's a parallel tally center in Tanzania, that would have been very unfortunate, if I may put it that way, because we have institutions as a country, and one of the agenda for deliberations from Kriegler's report was for this country to have reformed institutions that would be able to execute their mandate without being interfered. That independence was created, and that's why we have IEBC, which is able to tally and give out credible results if we give it the trust that it deserves. It's unfortunate that we do not have that trust and we don't seem to trust each other, and that's why perhaps we are, speculating about an existence of another polling station somewhere outside this country. But Raila was categorical yesterday when the question was posed to him that there's nothing like that, and they have one in Kenya, of course, he admittedly said so, and the other one on cloud, of course, I don't know what that means. Maybe for the technicians, I mean, technology experts, maybe
they'll
understand that better. But as he put it, actually, according to the law, he said that there's nothing wrong with that, legally speaking, because Jubilee did it the same. In 2013, they also had a sort of and I also did the same when I was actually vying for parliament back in 2013. I had a team which was actually doing my tallying, and they could give me the real picture on the ground on how results are, are tickling in. And I was able to gauge myself at what position I am at a certain given moment of the time. So NASA can still do that, legally speaking. But when they are saying that they will declare the results, or if there isn't that narrative or notion that they will be able to declare their own results, that's where the catch-22 is. Because
well, but to be fair to them, what they have constantly said is we are keeping this tallying center so that we are able to track everything, so that at the end of the day, we don't come back to Kenyans and tell them kura yetu iliibiwa.
I think there's nothing wrong with tallying. The problem is only the declaration of the results. That is a mandate of the IEBC, and that cannot be taken away from IEBC according to the law. Because when they say that they declare results, if they have said so, I'm not saying that they said so, but if there's that notion or intention to declare their own results, then that will be conflicting the very role of the IEBC that has been mandated by
I think we need to split, the facts from fictions, okay? I don't think NASA at any point has said they are going to independently declare their results. There's nothing wrong, as they've said, legally speaking, from tallying, as you've also suggested. And I think Raila made it very clear last night when he said what they are doing is simply replicating what the returning officers have said. And we know the ruling was very clear that those results at the polling station announced by the returning officers and the presiding officers are final. So what they are simply doing, or what I heard them say that they will do, is pick those figures and keep them so that they can verify what they have. Keep track of what is happening with what IBC is saying. So as far as that is concerned, there's nothing illegal about that. I think that is very clear. About having a tallying center outside the country, there are two things to it. As we know, there are Kenyans outside the country who are watching and monitoring the elections. If they are able to tally their own figures wherever they are, absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. If there's a third, let me say, a third party, let's say a government, another government, being used to tally and look at, Kenyan election results in any given way, then that would be illegal. That would be similar to what, we are told Russia did with the US election, which is extremely illegal. So on that note, I think it would be wrong for NASA to try and use any other government to tally elections. But if they have their own centers run by Kenyans in any part of the world, I think that is not illegal.
So we shouldn't really be fussing about
We shouldn't be worried about whether it's in the country or it's outside the country. It's the same thing you do where we at KTN. If I had another studio in Mauritius or I would still do the same thing. The figures should be, from my understanding, consistent. If there is inconsistency, that tallying will help you to understand where did we go wrong. So it's a back-checking sort of thing.
Okay, you mentioned the kind of relationship this will create, if at all, we think about having a parallel tallying center in Tanzania. But something else came up yesterday on Kenya's place and its relationship with its neighbors. Kenya's long-standing space as the economic hegemon in the region came up for debate. And according to the NASA leader, Raila Odinga, it boils down to the leadership. Let's listen in.
As Kenya has been abandoned in the Northern Corridors project by both Uganda and Rwanda, what does that say about Kenya?
it speaks volumes about the leadership of Kenya. I think it is the leadership that is accelerating itself. And that's the reason why Uganda is finding it more attractive to go to Tanzania. Tanga or Dar es Salaam is much farther away from Kampala than Nairobi and Mombasa. It does not make any sense economically, other than that it was a political decision. So I think that we need to do some soul-searching and thinking. I think it is the leadership that has let Kenya down.
All right, some of the comments that we got there from the NASA presidential candidate on Kenya's place in the ESC region and the relationship it has. Remember, we've had issues with the projects that were mentioned there by the moderator. What do you think about his response there?
Thank you, Akisa. I think Kenya has been taken as a bully within this region of East Africa. And maybe the decisions by most of these countries to maybe dissociate themselves with Kenya is maybe a message that they are trying to send out there. And when you look back at how Kenya used to handle itself and how it used to be respected by these countries, it was the epitome of regional integration. And every country was actually looking to Kenya as a reference point in terms of business, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of governance, and in terms of tranquility as a country. But we seem to be losing that because of the way we seem to be, relating with our neighbors. And I will tell you that although there seems to be some changes in terms of dynamics of the market dynamics, in terms of doing business, I can say that partly the relationship has been created in the way we have been handling our neighbors. If you look at the way Amina Mohamed fared in terms of the last elections that she was vying for the AU Secretary Chair, I think she fumbled there because of she could not amass the support that she needed from the nearest neighborhood. That's Uganda, Tanzania, and I'm told they never voted for us. And that says something that we need to look into our foreign policy. We need to interrogate it further and see where we went wrong, because we seem to be losing key business opportunities as a country. And when you look at the issues of LAPSET, issues of the railway gauge and all that, these were key areas that would have really opened up those interiors, other countries, DRC, Rwanda, and other countries, where Kenya would have benefited fully in terms of business. But again, for Uganda, I think Uganda, that's on record that they can do very little without Kenya being a landlocked country. And in the sense that they import 90%, even 99% of all their products, everything through Kenyan port. So it is a matter of looking at the situation in a way that while we are still, having this frosty relationship with these countries, there's still much to be done to improve our relationships with this country. Look here, when Sudan goes into war among themselves, the fallback is always Kenya. When Somalia tries to put a government in place, the fallback or the avenue for doing that is always Kenya. When Uganda and Tanzania fought between 1970s, 79 and 78, Kenya was the avenue for peace for those countries. So geographically speaking, Kenya still is the epitome of regional integration. We need to find a way of preserving that or inculcating values that will still gel the countries in East Africa together.
Moses, were the responses that Raila Odinga gave about integration and foreign policies satisfactory to you?
Well, I wanted to pick up on the point you raised about our relationships with other countries. I think I want to look at it from different angles. The leadership angle that you mentioned, the trade angle, and the general, labor migration among these three countries. Now, I was not very clear if I got Raila on his foreign policy answer. But I think what he was trying to say is that we've lost our sort of pivotal role in the region as reference point, either economically or in terms of leadership over the last few years. And there's something I need to mention here, Akisa. We've seen transition happen in this region. For example, we've seen Tanzania change the presidency in the last few years. We've seen Kenya do the same. Now, you have to remember that each president has his own way of doing things. They will not necessarily subscribe to what they got in office or the policies they found in office. I think what tickled a bit the region was the election of President John Pombe Magufuli of Tanzania. he came in with a very different style of leadership and relating to the region. If you remember correctly, he emphasized the need to think about Tanzania first, almost like picking from Donald Trump's drive America first. So he sort of sidelined the region. And I think there was also that frosty relationship between him as a person and the president of this country. I don't think that has affected trade. I think what it has affected is the normal, day-to-day relationship we used to see. The other thing I want to mention, which is about regional integration, is the fact that all of a sudden countries are realizing that regional integration is not everything. It doesn't solve your solutions. And I think this is stemming from what has happened in Europe, where EU has lost its pull factor. Countries are trying to go independent. Thirdly, I think when Raila mentioned about leadership and other countries keeping us and going to other countries, I think specifically he meant Uganda, which has run away from the Northern Corridor. Now, I think Uganda gave very good reasons why they were doing that. First, they were getting cheaper options from Tanzania. And secondly, they were claiming that the Kenya project is coupled with lots and lots of hurdles. So it was going to take long for them to, realize.
All right. All right, so, let's take a look at, just finish your point quickly.
No, just what I want to say. So I don't think that in any sense means there's a frosty relation between Kenya and Uganda.
And Uganda. All right, let's take a look at his closing comments, where some have argued that the crowning moment of the night was the closing comments by the NASA flag bearer. Let's just take a look at that.
I just want to tell Kenyans that we are on the brink of history as a country. It has been a long journey to reach where we have reached today as a people. 8th of August is going to remain in the annals of our history as a very historic day for our people. Every Kenyan who is able, who has registered as a voter, must turn out to cast their vote to participate in history making. I'm sure that at the end of the day, Kenyans are going to emerge victorious. So we urge you, whether you're a Jubilee supporter, or you're a NASA supporter, turn up and vote for us, because Nane Nane will remain forever a very important day in your life. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana wa Kenya kwa kunisikiliza. Juta ya kwamba ndugu yangu Uhuru Kenyatta hakukuja. Ningependa sana akae pale, nieleze yale maneno yote, akisikia apate fursa ya kujibu, lakini ameniwacha peke yangu. Ameniweka shere, lakini ndio ameweka boya hapa, lakini pamoja na haya mimi namtakia kila laheri na rafiki yake Bwana Ruto. Natakia heri, nasema hiyo mchuano itakuwa ya kirafiki, na yule ambaye atashinda ashinde, na siyekubali kushindwa sio mshindani.
The closing remarks that everyone is talking about seems to have just crowned that evening and the end to the presidential debates. A minute each as we close as well.
Absolutely. He really earned a lot of marks from that. And that was one of the key highlights of his speech, and posing that kind of friendly sort of posture towards the incumbent. I think it was a crowning moment, and he really got a lot of votes. But I also want to point out on some of the other key highlights that he talked about, especially when he mentioned the issues of cost of living as one of the key, the tenets of his driving force in his agenda, and also the issue of housing issues, and also the issues of single mothers. These are constituents that has never been mentioned, and nobody seems to care about them. And the moment they really seemed to sympathize or to understand the kind of problems that they go through, I think that was also another key highlight that perhaps you cannot, just overlook like that. But again, fairly, just to sum it up, I think it really did well. And we always say in Africa, the best way to touch an African man is touching on his stomach. And he was able to say that he's going to make sure that he reduces the cost of living, unga, mchele, and all that. And therefore, to me, I think he earned some marks from this debate.
Do you agree? Your closing comments?
Absolutely, that was beautiful. I think that, cracked it for him. I think people almost thought that, this is the average, not average, but the normal Raila that we know. But I think his parting shot was probably one of the best he's ever delivered in such a very intense, environment when we are just 13 days to the elections. I think for me, the 3-4 things that he said that were crucial was, one, he preached peace in his last message, in his last comments. He wished Uhuru well. You know, he said, let's compete. I wish you were here, but unfortunately you didn't come, but I wish you well. You know, let the voter decide. The other thing he did is he said he will accept the results if they are free and fair, which is what you expect in any competition, for players to say, mwenye nguvu mpishe. You know, Alice used some Swahili, you know, saying that yes, you know, which was very good. But also, he also asked people to vote for. He didn't. I expected him to say, please, 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 Kenyans, vote for me. Yeah. No, he didn't do that. He said, please vote for the person you feel is capable to lead this country. So I think he made a very good parting shot, and the whole debate, the whole 90 minutes, I think he took charge of the debate. They were worth it. Yeah, he enjoyed himself, all right, which is good.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in. We wrap up the analysis of the presidential debate. Brian Mutie, governance expert and political analyst, as well as Moses Odhiambo, political analyst. Gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for coming in. At this point, we'll take a short commercial break here on Worldview. Don't go too far. We still have a lot more Landa for you coming up.
It was the bitter fight against ISIS, and now a blistering heat making life unbearable for most Syrians who want to pick up their lives.